Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall hosted by the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo. I'm Adam Hardiman, and I'll be your moderator again this evening. Thank you for joining us for our 5th telephone town hall that has seen thousands of you, our residents, join us thus far. We will do our best to answer your question tonight. We have our staff grouping the questions that do come in and then forwarding the questions that are most asked in the community. A reminder, if you are looking for assistance or information from the Red Cross, you can always call 1-888-350-6070 or visit the Red Cross's Fort McMurray office in the basement of the Hardin Street building, Monday to Friday from 9 to 6 and Saturday from 9 to 5. If you are looking for the recent progress update released by the municipality last week for re-entry to standing homes in the restricted areas of Abisan, Beacon Hill, and Waterways, please visit rmwb.ca and click on the wildfire recovery banner at the top of the page to read about this new information. Before we begin, if you are on a cell phone and your call gets dropped, you can rejoin us by streaming it at rmwb.ca/townhall. At this time, I'd like to send things over to Mayor Melissa Blake, who will introduce tonight's participants.
Well, thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of our Town Hall. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce that we do have not only our Recovery Committee Council members, Sheldon Germain and Alan Vinney, but several members of the remaining committee as well. From the Municipal Administration and the Regional Emergency Operations Center, otherwise known as REOC, we have Chris Graham, Deputy Director of Emergency Management, REOC, Aaron O'Neill, Chief of Planning, REOC, Jamie Doyle, Director of Planning and Development, Amanda Hiatus, Manager, Economic Development, and Heidi Major, Landlord and Tenant Advisor, Family and Community Support Services. And as always, we're always delighted to have our invited attendees from the Red Cross. Tonight we have Matt Baden, who's available, the Insurance Bureau of Canada. We have Bill Adams and Rob Dupree. Alberta Municipal Affairs, we have Alison Scott, and Alberta Health Services, Dave Mateer, Deborah Samick, Roxanne Johnson, Chris Watkins, and Dominic Joseph. Thanks so much, Adam.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Blake, and a reminder, if you are just joining us, thank you for participating. Remember to press *3 to ask a question, and one of our great operators will take that question. Or you can type your question into the question field online at rmwb.ca/townhall. We will do our best to get you the answers you need again tonight. Let's take our first question. Well, as always, we're going to start online as the phone calls come in. And this first one is from Samuel. So he's asking, I've heard about business funding that the municipality may be participating in. Where can I go to find out more information, and where can I go to get it? So I'm going to send that one over to Amanda Hiatus with our Economic Development Department.
Hi, thank you for your question. Yes, right now there is immediate business funding available for businesses in Wood Buffalo. The Red Cross has partnered with the RMWB to issue $1,000 of immediate relief funding, and you can access that money by calling into our hotline, our business hotline at 1-855-RMWB-BIZ, and that needs to happen before July 30th, as that is the cutoff date. But in addition to the funding, there are a couple of other resources that you may find useful. One is at the Back to Business Resource Center, which is basically a one-stop shop for businesses supports. And that place can be accessed at 9816 Hardin Street. And it's open Monday to Saturday. There's legal advice, sales and marketing advice, accounting. Even if you're looking for quick access to some office space for an hour or two, that's the place to go. And another piece you may be interested in is the YMM Home Show, which will be August 20th at Mac Island. And if you have a business that can showcase some services and products to residents when it comes to the rebuild, so some examples would be renovating, landscaping, rebuilding, decorating, it's free of charge to exhibit. And we are looking for exhibitors for the August 20th show. To register, you can go to our website at choosewoodbuffalo.ca. Thanks for your question.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you, Samuel, for the question. We're going to stay online for our second question this evening. We're going to go with George here. George is asking, how are things coming along with the permitting process? I've seen that permits are taking place. I have a few neighbors that have submitted permits and some colleagues as well. So if we could get an update on how things are going, that would be greatly appreciated, he says. So I'm going to send that one over to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development.
Thanks, Adam. Great question, George. As of today at 4 p.m., we have 147 approved demolition permits, and we have 213 received to date, and we've done 23 post-demo inspections. So we're doing quite well. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you, George, for the question. Our next question, we're going to stay online as our questions continue to come in over the phone lines. Related to the demolition process, this one's from Mike. He says, why has Specs not started debris removal? So I'm going to send that one to Mr. Rob Dupree with IBC, please.
Hi, and thank you for the call. The coordinated debris removal program has started last week, so they're in the process of collecting all the appropriate authorizations and submitting the permit applications. They will be working on a schedule as well, and we'll be posting that information when it is available. The project manager Specs has created a frequently asked questions on their website, and that can be reached at specs, specs.ca for additional information.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. I'm also going to send that one to your colleague, Bill Adams, to take that for us as well.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks, Mike, for the question. I wanted to add to Rob's response that I think what you and perhaps a lot of people are thinking about now is, how do I get my debris removed? How do I get everything out of the way so I can begin rebuilding? And I think it's important that everyone reflect on the fact that you have a choice. You can choose to use the coordinated debris removal that Specs is organizing, or you can use a contract of your choice. But regardless of which you choose, you should try and make that decision in reasonably quick order. Take the time that you need, but if you choose the coordinated debris removal program, for example, at the end of this week, there's a 20% discount that expires. And if you're going to use the coordinated debris removal process, it would be a shame for you to miss out on that 20% discount. But you need to make that decision this week if that's the case.
Well, thank you so much, Bill and Rob. Before that, we're going to take our first question on the phone. I believe we're ready right now. So we got some phone questions that have come in. We're going to go to Lillian. Lillian, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad, dare you?
Great. You go right ahead with your question, please. Ready.
I was just wondering, I did the re-entry with the Red Cross on the 27th of May. I came in early, and I still haven't received the extra funding we were supposed to be getting.
Well, thank you so much, Lillian, for the question. We're going to go to Matt Baden with the Red Cross to take that, please.
Hi, Lillian. Thanks for your question. If you could just make sure to leave your information with the operator, and then we can make sure we have your information with the operator so that we can look into the issue. If anybody else is experiencing this issue, I'd encourage you to actually come and pay us a visit, either at our Hardin Street office or calling into 1-888-350-6070 so we can follow up with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lillian, for the question. Thank you, Matt. And as a reminder, anyone looking for Red Cross can, as we mentioned off the top, give them a call at 1-888-350-6070. They can also visit the Fort McMurray office at Hardin Street building in the basement from Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, and 9 to 6 on, he's telling me right now over the air that we have a change of the time. So 9 to 6, Monday to Saturday? Perfect. Okay, perfect. 9 to 6, Monday to Friday, and 9 to 5 on Saturday. Thank you so much. So that's for the Red Cross. You can take those times. So we're going to stay online here for our next question. This one is from Will. He's asking a question about the Recovery Committee. So he's saying, sorry, this is actually from Wendy, not John. I had the wrong card there for a second. Can you provide an update on the Recovery Committee's progress? And when is the first committee meeting going to take place? So I'm going to send this one to Councillor Sheldon Germain with the Buffalo Recovery Committee.
Thank you very much, Adam. And I think the call was Wendy. Yeah, thanks, Wendy. The Recovery Committee is in attendance tonight. They're going through 4+ days of governance sessions and training. The goal is to have the first public recovery committee meeting on August 3rd, time to be announced, hopefully here in the council chamber.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Germain. Thank you to the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, many of which, as you mentioned, here with us on the call, and Wendy for the question, of course. So we are going to go back to the phone lines here for our next question. Molly, are you there?
Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to ask about the waterways. We had one of the houses that burnt down and have heard a rumor that we will not have the ability to rebuild because waterways or parts of waterways is designated as a flood zone. And I'm wondering if you could please either discount or substantiate the rumors or tell us what's transpiring at the moment.
Well, thank you so much, Molly, for the question, and sorry to hear about everything that's happened for you and the community. You know, we're all standing next to you. You're right with us as we go through this process. I'm actually going to send your question to Councillor Sheldon Germain with the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee. Thank you.
Hi, Molly. Sorry for the delay and sorry for the loss of your home. I just want to say that we are working very hard to try to get you information that will help you understand the choices and options you have available. We are looking and working on all issues related to the floodplain and all issues that are related to your particular community. The Recovery Committee is trying to develop structures that will include you in the process of decision making, and we can assure you that we're doing that as fast as we possibly can. At this point, what I'm asking you to do is remain patient as we research and figure out what is the best way to move forward. Once we have that data and information, we will share it with you.
Well, thank you so much, Councillor Germain. As we move through the call, remember to ask a question. Press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to one of our great operators. If you are joining us online, please type your question into the question field at rmwb.ca/townhall. So we're going to keep going. We're going to go back to the phones. Bruce, are you there?
Yes. Hello. Good. I've kind of got two questions here. One is for the Insurance Bureau. Is insurance responsible for cleanup of ash and debris in the yards from, I'm in a standing home, from apartments and that being burnt beside me that came flying into my yard? And secondly, I've been online about this re-entry, and it doesn't really say too much. Do you have any more specific timeline on when people are going to be allowed into their standing homes in Abbotsford and Beacon Hill and stuff?
Well, thank you so much, Bruce, for the question, and your series of questions very popular tonight online and as well on the phone line, so that's why we're pushing it through. So thank you once again for that great question. So the first one, I think, was more related to the debris removal, so we'll send that to IBC. Rob Dupree, if you could take that, please.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for the call. When we're dealing with the debris removal, and specifically if you choose to go with the coordinated debris removal program, there's a number of things that are going to be happening in that process. The first part of that is they're going to be doing selective testing of ash and debris in specific locations. They're also going to be cleaning up controlled substances such as propane tanks, ammunition, aerosol tanks, these types of things that may be at the property. They're going to be disconnecting the utilities for any lots that haven't already been disconnected. Removal of all recyclable metals, excluding the vehicles. The vehicles are being dealt with by your own insurance company. They're also going to be removal of any of the damaged planted trees and shrubs. Also, the main thing is removal of all fire-related debris, including scraping the 2 top inches of soil off the entire lot. They will also be removing all of the concrete work, including the foundation and the damaged sidewalks, driveways, and patios, and they will also be doing air monitoring and inspections to ensure that the dust is controlled during that coordinated debris removal program to make sure that it's safe for not only the workers, but for safety for everyone in the area.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. And the second part of your question, Bruce, was about having some timelines on reentry into the Abysan neighborhood for our standing homes in restricted areas there. I'm going to go to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning in the REOC, for that, please.
Hi, Bruce, and thank you for your question. And I apologize about the loss of your home. We have made significant progress in the areas of Abysan, Waterways, and Beacon Hill, including fortified fencing, additional tackifier, infrastructure assessments, and water flushing, as the safety of our residents remain our number one concern. We have been working closely with the Government of Alberta, the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and Alberta Health Services on the reentry plan for those areas, and we will communicate that to you as soon as we have the information on the phased reentry program.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, for that, and thank you, Bruce, for the two important questions that's been on the mind of a lot of our residents. So we're going to go back to the phone lines here. Daryl, are you there?
Yep, here I am. Hello.
Hi, Daryl. How are you?
Not bad.
Please go right ahead with your question, sir.
Okay, so one of the very, very, very primary questions I think that's on the minds of an awful lot of residents is this toxic doom, if you hear me clearly, scenario that's been laid on ABW, Abysan, and Beacon Hill waterways. Like, we have forest fires every year all around North America, and the normative response is just go in, okay, we've had a fire, go in, clean up the goop, and then let the people back. But in this case, we have Dr. Grimsrud, who I've talked with personally in the last week, saying, oh my goodness, we have big toxic doom in ABW, and it's a big scare for a lot of folks. Can you comment, please? Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Daryl, for that question, and kind of two parts to it, so I'll allow our Chief of Planning, Erin O'Neill, to take that one for us.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Daryl, for your question. Since the Chief Medical Officer of Health restricted the areas of Abysan, Beacon Hill, and Waterways, there has been significant testing done on soil, ash, and air, and none of those tests have resulted in higher than normal levels that need to be concerned about. We have also put additional fencing in place, additional tackifier in place, so for any of the homes that were sifted, we re-tackify them, or any in close proximity to standing homes, we re-tackify them to make sure that the ash stays all in place. We are working on that plan to propose a phased re-entry into the restricted areas, and we are working closely with the Government of Alberta, Alberta Health Services, and the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo to develop that plan so we can re-enter those people into the standing homes. And as soon as we have that information, we will communicate it to you as soon as it's available.
Well, thank you so much, Erin. I'll also add that if you go to alberta.ca, the homepage for the Government of Alberta website, it's right there on the front page. You're able to read all the results of the Phase 2 of environmental testing that was done across the board, like Erin's talking about, in those restricted areas as well as across the community. So it breaks down exactly what Erin's talking about, the location of the testing, the results of the sampling, and why we're exactly where we are. You can also see the latest statement from the Chief Medical Officer of Health. So thank you so much, Daryl, for that question. We know it's a question on a lot of people's minds, and stick with us as we work this for you with the Government of Alberta, and we should be back to you very shortly and back to the community very shortly with the process moving forward. We are going to move right ahead, and this one brings us back to our online questions. This one is from Stephen. Stephen's from Beacon Hill. He's asking, do we have to wait until all the debris removal to be completed to move back in our house that has not been damaged? So that's a very good question. It actually follows up on what we just talked about. So I'm going to actually go back to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, to take that one as well.
Thank you. We are working closely with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the Government of Alberta, and our planning team in REOC to develop a plan to allow reentry of the standing homes in the restricted areas. This will include a we are optimistic that this will include some of the areas of Abbotsford and Beacon Hill will be able to return to those homes in hopefully the month of August. So we are working closely with the Chief Medical Officer of Health on that plan, and we will communicate those details as soon as we have them.
So thank you so much for that, Erin. And I guess to answer it as well, right now you do, but our first priority is to make sure that we have a plan in place that works for everyone, that we can get you back as soon as possible. So it's wait for now, but our first priority is to make that happen, and we expect to have some more information in the days and weeks ahead that will allow that to happen. So thank you so much for your question. Stephen, we're going to go back to the phones now. Sheila, are you there?
I am.
How you doing?
Good. I had one question, but I was going to give you some information as well. When I was on Applewood Drive last week, I saw two people sifting through their home. There was nobody with them, so maybe they want to go back and re-tackify Applewood Drive, because I'm pretty sure there was no retacking done. And I don't know if there was any re-tackifying done in that area, but there was no assistance there. They were just two people on their own. The other question is for Alan Vinnie. I was wondering if he could give me any information whether there was follow-up with the Canadian Bankers Association with regards to mortgage deferral.
Well, thank you so much, Sheila. And to your first point, we've definitely taken note of that. We've taken down the address, and we'll go take a look at that area as soon as possible. I know your next question was for Councillor Vinnie from the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, and I think what it was about was, Councillor Vinnie, has there been any further communications from the Canadian Bankers Association regarding any possibility of mortgage deferral? So I'll send that to you, sir.
Thanks, Adam. Hey, Sheila, thanks for checking in with me on this. Me and Councillor Germain spoke to the Senior Collections Officer from the Bank of Montreal last week, and he has agreed to continue working with us to try and get an official meeting with the members of the Canadian Bankers Association. Meeting has not taken place yet, but we continue working on getting that to happen in the near future. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Councillor Vinnie, and thank you, Sheila, for those first pointing out the first thing and then the question afterwards. Thank you once again. We're going to go back to the phones, and my apologies if I get this wrong. Yusuf, are you there? Yusuf, are you still there with us? Well, sir, we're going to have to move on to our next question, so our apologies for that. We're going to go back to the phones for this one. Letitia, are you there?
Hi.
Hi, Letitia.
Hi, how are you? Hello?
Hi, Letitia. Can you go right ahead with your question?
Yeah, my question is, when we came to Fort McMurray, they were giving some money, right? So I went there for help, and the guy wasn't nice, but the question is, he asked me to bring my address from Alberta, and the Alberta address, my letter is gone. So when this thing happened, I used the FA because they asked us to fill some applications, some forms, right? So I asked a friend, I used my friend address to fill the forms, and the guy is asking me, oh, so you use this address to fill the form, you are telling me you live in Alberta? I said, yeah, I live in Alberta, but I cannot provide a letter that shows my address on it because we did not take everything when we are running. So he did not help me to find a place because my boyfriend ended up going to Toronto, and right now I'm just staying with a friend, and the friend is telling me she's going to move back to Edmonton, so I just have to look for a place, but I'm not working, so I don't have money to do all these things.
Well, thank you so much for your question, Sheila. That's a good question. We're going to send that one over to the Red Cross. Matt Baden, if you could take that, please.
Hi, Letitia. Thank you for the question. I apologize for your experience with the Red Cross so far, but if you leave your information, we can certainly follow up. If you have a registration number, I would invite you to come back in and we can try and take a look at what we can do. If you do not have a registration number, then I would suggest that you might call 1-888-350-6070 to register with the Red Cross. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you, Sheila, for the question. This one is going to go back to the phone lines. Marek, are you there?
Yes, hello. It's Marek, sorry.
Doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good. Go right ahead with your question, sir.
So I'm just curious, what happened? We own the duplex, and we the owner from the other side, there was their just income property, so we haven't ever met them. And we don't know what their plans are of rebuilding, or, we didn't even know if they had insurance or anything like that. So I'm just curious of how would you find out of their plans, what they are to rebuild or not, or what are our options to find out any information about that?
Well, thank you so much, sir, for the question. We're going to go to the Insurance Bureau of Canada. We're going to go to Bill Adams for that one, please.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Marek. I'll try and answer the question. It's not really an insurance question, although there could potentially be insurance implications from situations like you described. Essentially, what you're describing really is an issue of more property law. So if you've got a circumstance like yours where two people on either side of a duplex, in an ideal situation, both homeowners want to rebuild. They talk to one another. They talk to their insurers. They choose a builder. They have one builder build both sides. Of course, there are going to be circumstances, and we've heard of circumstances where one wants to rebuild, the other does not. Those start to get a little stickier. What I would suggest is that there are both rights and obligations, as I understand it in property law, of owners of both sides of the duplex. You should first you should work with your neighbor to find out what their intentions are. If they are not to rebuild and you'd like to rebuild, you may need to seek legal counsel on what your recourse is.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you for the question, Marek. We're going to go back to our online questions. I have a lot of online questions this evening, as usual. This one's from Daryl. He's asking, will security be set up in those affected neighborhoods? I'm going to assume he means our restricted areas, when they're let back home. I'm going to send this one to our our Deputy Director of Emergency Management, Chris Graham, please.
Yes, good evening. Yes, I can assure you that a security overlay will be in place in each of the areas that have been impacted by the fire. And specifically, as we talk about ABW, those areas will continue to have a modified security perimeter. And what you'll see is the fence lines will change and potentially the area that receives residents.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, Daryl, for the question. We're going to go back online once again. A lot of online questions this evening. So I'm going to read this. This one's from Youssef. He says, my home is smoke damaged. At what point in the process do I contact my insurance adjuster? So we're going to send that to IBC. And Mr. Rob Dupree, please.
Hi, Youssef. You should absolutely be getting a hold of your insurance company as soon as possible to start the process. With smoke damage, if you have the appropriate coverage, they will be able to assess your property, send someone out if they need to, and determine what the next steps are to make sure that your property is clean and safe for you and your family.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. And we're going to remind our listeners once again, if you have a question, press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to one of our superb operators. If you're joining us online, please type your question into the question field at rmwb.ca/townhall. We're going to go back to the phones. I'm going to do my best to get this one right, so I apologize in advance. Neela Shaneda, are you there, please? Neela,
yes, I'm here.
Are you there?
I'm online.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Please go ahead with your question.
So my house in Stone Creek, and I have a water damage, and some internal repair needs to be done. So I'm just wondering, there are lots of rumor whether do I need a permit, I don't need a permit, I need to bring some health hygienist, or so I'm unsure right now, like what is required actually. Do I need a permit?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I'm going to send that one to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development.
Thanks, Adam, and great question. It's hard to determine just from a question whether or not you actually need a permit. I'm going to invite you to come see us at 309 Powder Drive in Timberley and Timberley Landing, so we can better understand the scope of your work, so we can better answer your question. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, and thanks once again for the question. So I'm going to go back to the phones here. Lisa, are you there?
I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have two questions, actually. Okay. We keep being told that the municipality and the province are working on a plan to allow residents with green homes back into their homes, like in Addison, Beacon Hill, and Waterways. But shouldn't we be told that is only a recommendation that we do not return, but that we are actually allowed to if we so desire? And also, when will the boil water advisory be lifted in Abasand?
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, and two very excellent questions, and certainly on the mind of a lot of our residents here tonight, and that's why we put it forward. I'm going to go to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning in the REOC, please.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Lisa, for your question. We are working on a phased reentry plan for the restricted areas that would allow some residents to return home during phase 1 of that reentry program. This does include the flushing of the water lines, which is currently underway in Abasand and Beacon Hill. So as soon as the flushing is done and the tests are submitted, that boil water advisory will be lifted. As you know, you can enter the restricted areas between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. During this time until that restriction is lifted as per the recommendations of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and those will stay in place until a phased reentry program is proposed.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, for taking that one for us, and certainly a question that's on a lot of people's minds, speaking about that reentry plan for those restricted areas. We are going to go back to the phone. Kirsten, are you there?
Yep.
Go right ahead with your question, please.
Yes, just a question. I live up in Timberley, and we're not hearing a lot about a Timberley phases. I know it was hit hard as well, and I know I can't go back until September, so is it going to be safe?
Well, thank you so much, Kirsten, for the question. We're going to go to our Chief of Planning in the REOC, Erin O'Neill, for that one.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Kirsten, for your question. The areas in Abasand, Beacon Hill, and Waterways were restricted. The areas of the other damaged areas were not restricted, and testing has been done in those areas similar to Abasand, Beacon Hill, and Waterways. The testing for ash, soil, and air has been done in all the damaged areas of the region. So there hasn't been any major concerns with that testing. So there is those individuals living in other areas can return home at this point. We have, for the individuals that are living adjacent or in close proximity to any fire-burnt homes, we have worked with Alberta Health Services, and they are providing inspections of those homes to go in and do a risk assessment of those homes to propose any things that you can do to make your house more safe. But at this point, people are living in Timberley and those areas that have been deemed safe for reoccupation.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, for that solid response. We're going to go back to the online questions. This one's from George. George is asking, I have a home in Abasand that's still standing that needs repairs to the siding and the roof. When can I proceed with inspections and repairs? So I think a bit of a two-part answer, but we're going to go to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning in the REOC first, and then perhaps IBC for a follow-up if that works. So we'll go to Erin O'Neill, please, first.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, George, for your question. The areas of Abasand, Beacon Hill, and Waterways are restricted. However, that does not preclude you from entering those areas between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Each day. Residents can go into their homes, they can do repairs on their structures, provided they don't need building permits, so roof repairs, siding repairs, those can be done now. If you need to move furniture out of your areas, if you need to move anything else out of your house or take anything in for that matter, you can do those between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. every day.
And thank you so much, Aaron. For the second part of that question, we'll go to IBC and Rob Dupree.
Hi, thank you for the call, and I'm very sorry that you've had damage to your property and you have to go through this. If you have insurance, your insurance company and your adjuster are there to help. Once it's been determined the scope of the repairs that are necessary, as just mentioned by Aaron, they can be proceeding with those necessary repairs right away. If you do run into any challenges or have any questions or concerns that your insurance company can't help you with, I'd like to provide you with our Consumer Information Center. That phone number is 1-8442-ASK-IBC. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Jordan, for the question, and to Aaron and Rob for that good response. We're going to move on to our online portion once again. This question is from Scott. He says, what has been done to ensure that the sand and wood chips in our playgrounds here in the community are safe to play in? We're going to go to our Deputy Director of Emergency Management, Chris Graham, for that one, please.
Yes, good evening, Scott. In terms of the parks around the RMWB park staff have been very active in terms of cleaning those areas, scrubbing down the equipment and making sure that the safety and security of the children within this municipality are protected.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I'll also add, if you once again go to alberta.ca and check out the location of the environmental testing across the board, Phase 2 being released a couple weeks ago by the province, you can check out the various locations, creates a wide sample size across the community, and further Chris's point about the safety and health of our community. So thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, Scott, for the question. We're going to go back to the phone. James, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How you doing tonight?
Good. I was wondering if I could ask Mayor Council, I guess it's a municipal question, with regards to architectural controls. I just wanted to know if they were going to maintain architectural controls and enforce existing architectural controls, because to my understanding, the city doesn't enforce architectural controls at this time.
Hi,
or whether the...
Sorry, James, it's Mayor Melissa here, and I think you've got an absolutely outstanding question, but the right person we're going to send this one to is Jamie Doyle, because he is the Director of Planning and Development, and things like that are more in his wheelhouse than in the council body, but at this point, I'm going to just give it to Jamie and see what he has to say on that one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and great question, James, and you are correct. The city does not have a vested interest in that, so what that architectural control is, that's an agreement between the developer and the builder, and the developer holds back a certain amount of monies until that builder meets those architectural controls. Once he does, he's given that money back, or she's given that money back, and they call it a day. Now that it needs to be repaired, the city does not enforce those architectural controls.
Well, thanks so much, Jamie, and thanks, James, for the question. Thank you, Mayor Blake, as well. We're going to go back to the phone. Joelle, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Okay, I'm fine, thank you. So I live in Abasand, and I do have my home standing. There is some minor damage to it, but several of us want to know, for those of us with standing homes in Abasand, we keep hearing that you possibly may be allowed in August, etc. I know, and we totally understand that we can't get an exact timeline. But what we want to know is if we are allowed to return to our homes, but personally don't feel safe to return during the debris removal, will our insurance stop helping us? Because there's many of us that don't feel it's safe for our physical or mental health, especially those of our children, to be breathing in the dust and watching the burnt houses being removed.
Well, thank you so much, Joelle. It's an excellent question, and one that's certainly on a lot of people's minds as we move through this process and look to allow some reentry to our green homes in the restricted areas. I'm going to go to IBC for that one. I'm going to go to Rob Dupree, if you could take that.
Hi, Joelle. That's a great question, and thank you very much for calling in and participating. In relation to your standing home in Abasand, if you don't feel that your house is safe to enter back into, once the municipality and the chief medical officer have given the okay that you're able to get into your property, you would need to talk to your insurance company and outline the reasons why you don't feel that it's safe. In many cases, the section of the insurance policy that we're dealing with is the additional living expense, and typically the additional living expense would be triggered once your home is not habitable. So if your home is not habitable, then that would trigger the additional living expense, and you would have absolutely a good valid reason for not going back into your home. If it is determined that your house is habitable, I'd also like to remind you that while there is debris removal that's going on, there will be a number of testing and specifically air monitoring that's going to be happening to ensure that the airborne debris is going to be monitored to make sure it's safe for everyone. And during the actual removal of the debris must be wetted as well to ensure that we don't have any airborne debris that's getting into the atmosphere. If you do run into some challenges, we also have a consumer information center. You can send them an email at fortmacfire@ibc.ca, and they'll be happy to answer your question and help you out as much as we can.
Well, thank you, Joel, once again for the question, and thank you, Rob, for answering for us. We're going to go back to the phones. This one from Lamont. Lamont, are you there? Hi there, Lamont.
I probably wasn't speaking to him. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Lamont.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Go right ahead with your question, sir.
Sorry, let me just take you off speakerphone here.
That's all right.
All right, hello?
Hello, Lamont. Go right ahead with your question.
Okay, so my question is, specs, as I heard earlier, if people don't book with specs before the end of July 31st, that their rates go up by 20% for clearing. Is that correct? Hello?
Well, go right ahead. Well, thank you
so
much.
If the rates are going up by 20% at the end of July 31st, so that's giving specs a carte blanche license to start gouging Fort-McMurray residents. So if that's the case, why is it not going back out to tender or going to the next lowest bidder? Because I assume they bid on an RFQ here.
Well, thank you so much for the question. We're going to send that one over to IBC. Mr. Bill Adams, if you could go right ahead, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Lamont. I'll try and answer your question as best I can. First, just a quick background and a reminder for everyone. When this first began, we looked around and we decided that we wanted to learn lessons from other communities that had gone through what this community's gone. Unfortunately, no community has gone through what this community's gone through. The closest we could get was Slave Lake, which had lost 400 homes and had a lot of difficulty in the debris removal process because you had different contractors all trying to get down the same small street with their trucks and their dozers to remove all the debris, and it was chaos. So that council and that community approached IBC and asked us to take a role in working with insurance companies to try and do it in a coordinated fashion, so that in an ideal world, the crews would start literally at one side of the street, one end of the block, and move to the other end of the block while there's another crew working back the other direction on the other side of the street. And you would go from lot to lot to lot in a coordinated, systematic fashion. That's the most efficient way to do it because you're only moving your equipment into that region and then you're moving it from lot to lot to lot, as opposed to doing one lot in one area of the municipality, packing up all that equipment and moving it to the other side of the community to do another lot and then back. So you're doing a bit of a zigzag. So to your question, Lamont, you indicate that they're raising the prices. I think the intent was really to provide a discount and an incentive so that residents who were struggling with this decision could consider their options but make a decision that would allow the coordinated removal to know exactly all of the addresses they're dealing with by a certain date. That way they can then start planning how they're going to best systematically move from property to property in the most efficient way. So, as I understand it, at least, I wasn't involved directly in the negotiations between Specs and their general contractor, Fort McMurray 468 First Nations, but as I understand it, that was the intent, was to provide a discount so that it would be an incentive for people who are struggling with this decision to hopefully choose the coordinated process and make that whole process that much more efficient.
Well, thank you so much, Bill, for that. And you also pointed out, of course, that it was Fort McMurray First Nation number 468, that a local company that was awarded the contract for that portion of the process. And of course, residents always have the choice to go with their own local contractor individually. So two good options for our residents in working with us throughout this process. So thank you so much for the answer. We're going to go back to the phone lines. Kate, are you there?
Yep.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Hi. Please go. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Please go right ahead with your question.
My question is, are we going to be able to make changes to the outside of our patio home in Abbotsand due to the caveats?
Well, because that's such a good question, I'm going to go to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development. He can take that one for us. Jamie.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks, Kate, for the great question. Depending on the caveat, I'm assuming by the sounds of things you mean an architectural control. And as I mentioned just a little bit earlier, the city will not be enforcing any architectural control as it was not an agreement made with us. So if that's what you mean, then that would make the assumption that yes, you can change the outside of your home if it's a color for that example.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you, Kate, for the question. We're going to go back to our online questions here. This one, again, from George. Third question from George tonight. Maybe it's a different George, hopefully. We're getting across the board, across the community. Are there any plans to reinstitute price controls, i.e. the rent control, some of the things that were instituted? We're going to go to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning in the REOC.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, George, for your question. During the provincial state of local emergency, we did have a rent freeze in place. We are now working closely with the Government of Alberta and Red Cross to do a survey. So anyone that has a damaged or destroyed home, stay tuned for the survey. You will be contacted shortly. That survey is to determine what our demand for housing is, and once we have that demand for housing, we can provide the adequate supply, be it through interim housing or ideas such as the Abrams temporary RV park that's in place right now. For any specific concerns on rent, you can contact our Landlord and Tenant Advisory Board, and the number for that is 780-743-7888. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. And as we near the end of our call, about 10 minutes remaining for all our listeners out there. Remember, if you have a question, please press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to the operator. If you are joining us online, please type your question into the question field at rmwb.ca/townhall. So we're going to go back to the phones here for our next question. Eunice, are you with us? Eunice, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Please go right ahead with your question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to follow up with the question from the gentleman earlier about SPEC and the coordinated program. My first question is, we received the estimate. We signed some papers approximately 3 weeks ago with regard to SPECs for authorization of debris removal. Then we've been shocked again last week, and we said the form has changed and we need to start again, and therefore you're going to be at the bottom of the list coming up. And then after that, we receive a paper and say, well, you're going to go to spec.ca and you will see a list of where are you going to be in the queue. I've been looking all last week. I spoke to the spec manager. Unfortunately, there's no such a thing until this date. Can you give me a little bit of information about that? And the follow-up question would be, if my neighbor did not use a coordinated debris removal program and gone with a different contractor, would I have to be worried about the cross-contamination to my lot? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for those two questions. We're going to get through them. Excellent questions. First one, we're going to go to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development. Then we'll go over to IBC because I think there's some insurance components there as well. So, Jamie, if you could start us off.
Thanks, Adam, and great question, Jonas. The status of debris removal is we've already started. We've issued many permits, and we've even finalized some post-demo inspections. But as for the other part of your question, I'll have to defer to our IBC friends.
And thank you, Jonas, and I'm very sorry that you had damage to your property. As far as the schedule for the debris removal, the Fort McMurray number 468 First Nations and the project manager are in the process of compiling all the authorizations. They're in the process of applying for the debris removal permits, and then a schedule will be completed to determine which areas will have debris removal at which points in time. There will be multiple areas and there will be a lot of different places that will have the debris removal happening from that side of things. As far as the coordination and your question about the cross-contamination, the coordinated debris removal approach using this does have an environmental consulting firm that will be doing air monitoring, both downwind and upwind from the area in order to make sure that the air is being monitored and that it is safe. As well, in relation to this, they will be doing a number of samples for both the ash and debris to make sure that the information that they're finding inside of there is safe as well. And they will be wetting the debris as well to prevent any cross-contamination.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Eunice, for the question. We're going to go back online for our next question. This question's from Sean, and he says, my property is in the Wood Buffalo neighborhood of Fort McMurray, and it's currently under debris removal. After my debris removal permit is closed, can I immediately apply for a development permit? How long will it take to obtain this? I'm going to send this to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Adam, and another great question. You are correct. You can actually apply for your development permit, your building permit, once your debris removal or your demolition permit has been approved and finalized. As for the turnaround time, we are still working towards a 48-hour turnaround time for rebuilds. Of course, that also depends on volume and backlog, but yes, you can certainly apply.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie. We're going to keep moving right along here. We're going to stay online. This question is from Janelle. She asks, if your home is a loss, are you required by IBC or the RMWB to rebuild? So is it a requirement if you've lost your home? If not, what other options are there? So I'm going to send this to IBC, and Rob Dupree, if you could take this, please.
Thank you for your call. In relation to whether you have to rebuild, there are many different wordings in insurance policies. And if you do have a replacement cost policy, you do have the option to rebuild and get the replacement cost on the actual property. If you choose not to rebuild, you do have that option. You would need to work with your insurance company, and you would be entitled to the actual cash value of your property.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. And as we're nearing the end of the call, this is going to be our final question of the evening before we wrap things up. We're going to go to Amanda. Amanda, are you there on the phone with us?
Hi, thanks for taking the call. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. Okay, so I'm in waterways, and I understand specs, they'll do the removal and everything. But I know that we have a time frame afterwards to pour the cement, and if that's not going to happen, it has to get all backfilled in. And then my understanding is that when we are able to, we're going to be charged another $12,000 to get all the dirt back out and then pour the cement. How is that? Why would we be charged another $12,000?
Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for that great question. We're going to go to the IBC. Rob Dupree, if you could take that, please.
Hi, and thank you for your question. I'm sorry that you had a damaged property and that you have to go through this. In relation to your question about the debris removal, so there are prices that are noted on the website for specs.ca. They do have the pricing listed for the costs of the actual debris removal. Inside of the actual demolition permit application, if it is a requirement to backfill, your debris removal contractor, if they're not going to be doing the backfill, will have to be providing an alternate option as to what will meet the necessary requirements to make sure that this area is going to be safe and secure. If backfill is actually required, the frequently asked questions that was recently posted from the project manager outlined that the Fort McMurray number 468 First Nations has been working very hard to ensure the residents who have joined the coordinated mass demolition benefit, they do benefit from the economies of scale to help drive down the costs. And as a result, the actual costs of the backfill, initially we thought it was going to be significantly higher, but those costs have been reduced by thousands of dollars and is now posted as $8,800 per property.
Well, thank you so very much, Rob, for that answer. We're going to move to our conclusion now. I'm going to ask Mayor Melissa Blake to make some closing remarks here tonight.
Well, indeed, and I want to always begin with my thanks to the citizens who have posted their questions online and for joining us on the telephone and expressing the interests and concerns that they have. We understand that to get through this long journey that we're on together, we're going to be suffering heartbreaks together, and we're going to have some moments where we can take heart and hope. But essentially our call is the safe, resilient, and together. And when we hear the answers that we're receiving from each of these agencies, that's the hope and that's the heartbreak. But there's also a time where I think that we will get to the end of this road. And to do that, again, your patience is what makes this community the strong community that it is, the resilient community that it is. It's the people that you are. So while you're having some of those difficult days, know always that we're in this together and we're feeling for you and we'll find our way forward together. To the folks in the room, of course, it's a tough job that we hold as well, trying to respond to the number of questions that come to us. Sometimes we hit the mark and sometimes we miss the mark, but we do our best, and we have nothing but appreciation for the folks that are in the room here this evening and on the telephone joining us. On behalf of the Recovery Committee and my council members, thank you so much for the opportunity to host these town halls as we do.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Blake, and to the thousands of you that joined us this evening, and thank you for your questions. A full audio replay will be available soon at rmwb.ca/townhall. We do recognize not everyone's question was answered tonight. We thank you for your understanding as we do our best to answer similar questions that may have been submitted throughout the call. We invite you to visit rmwb.ca, call Pulse at 780-743-7000, or you can interact with us on Facebook or Twitter to connect with the municipality. The next telephone town hall will be Monday, August 8th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Have a good evening as we stay safe, resilient, and together as a community. Thank you.